What is up, YouTube? Welcome to New York City. I'm Chris Chavez, joined by Anderson Emerole, Kyle Merber, Dana Giordano, and we are live from the Armory to bring you our Millrose Games pre-race show presented by Bandit Running. We're all rocking Bandit here on the show today. The New York City, Brooklyn-based running company. This is actually Spring 2024, not out yet. So you get your first look here on the CITIUS MAG pre-race show. Both of you run in Bandit often. What do you like about all their apparel?
Their rain jacket works.
Really?
Yeah, I feel like
Well, that's big if true.
you get a lot of rain jackets out there where it's like, I don't know, seems like a regular jacket that's getting rained on. Bandit one works really well. No, their product's awesome. Super warm winter stuff.
Dana, have you raced in Bandit?
I've raced in Bandit, and I'll say, ladies, they know how to make a pocket.
Yeah.
If you know, you know.
I saw on one of their Instagram stories they had like a top that you could pack like 6 gels in, and it was like, oh, this is unique. We need one for the men now too. More pockets on the top. Anderson, you're rocking. This one looks cozy.
This is
your first impression.
First impression, one of the coziest sweatshirts I've ever had in my life. I mean, I'm loving it.
Love it.
You know what I like also just in general? Like you see some people, some brands, you know, you can get that anywhere. When you see someone out wearing Bandit, it's like, all right. Like you see someone in the park wearing Bandit, you're like, that person.
They know. They know.
That's a runner.
We're on the same team.
That's
They
a
get
runner. And that, I don't know, that's marketing.
So Bandit also just recently relaunched like their membership program where you can get discounts, early access. You've got exclusive events. You can check them out, and you can get 20% off the membership right now if you use code CITIUS20 at banditrunning.com. The code is also good for 20% off any of your first orders. So check them out today, banditrunning.com. Thanks to them for supporting us and all of our weekends coverage from the Millrose Games. It's kind of cool. New York City company backing the biggest meet taking place in New York City. So
We couldn't be farther from Bandit right now. They're in Greenpoint, and we're up here, Upper West Side.
Bandit
so
is
it'd be a
everywhere,
good
though.
run, though.
Taylor Swift would definitely take a jet.
All right. So here's how it's going to go. I guess like last year we ran through every single race and gave all of our picks, and we were here for like 3 hours. We also had Noah Lyles crash our set. But this time around, we're going to do things a little bit more different, a little bit more free-flowing, offer some takes. But at the same time, we have an extra mic, we have an extra chair. Someone may come and crash our set. But for starters, Anderson, you were at the press conference with me yesterday. Star-studded cast, and I feel like that's the Millrose Games. There's going to be the top stars. It's a nice preview for, you know, either the World Championships or the Olympics. But what did you get as like the temperature check or like the overall feel from these athletes? For many of them, it's their season opener.
Yeah, that's true. So many of them, they're season openers. But I mean, the big thing is a lot of these athletes love coming to the Armory. They love the energy. They love the fans. They love the competition. Like, this is clearly one of the biggest meets of the year. And I feel like these athletes are about to put down some really, really great performances.
You know what everyone does is they're like, oh, the Armory, like this is home. This is like a second home for me. And it's like, you come here once a year. Like, get out of here. It's not your home.
Well, I think the thing about the Millrose Games to me is this is when the racing actually starts. We've had some BU time trials. We had the indoor pre last weekend, but now I feel like this is the first time there's something on the line. These athletes are actually going head to head, and from now until the Olympics, it's track season.
That's a good point, too, because I think Millrose is really unique in the calendar where it's like winning in itself here is a huge deal. Like just winning the Millrose Games outside of winning a global championship medal or a national title, I really think Millrose stands on its own in the category of like a meet that in and of itself of saying to someone, I won the Millrose Games will forever hold some esteem. Whereas, look, like winning, the BU last chance meet, like how fast did you go? I don't care that you just won. And Millrose is in that sense where it's like if you win, the time is secondary. Winning here is what actually counts.
Yeah. Even I was speaking with Nikki Hiltz yesterday, and they literally said, I was training for the Millrose Games. Even though you have USAs, you have other things coming up, but they literally said, I'm training for the Millrose Games. It's a big deal.
Yeah. So it's Millrose Games next week, USA indoors, and then right after that, World indoors after a couple weeks. So from now on, like I guess like we joked a couple weeks ago about how, Dr. Sander and BU was like the season opener. It's all systems go between now and Paris. So I'm stoked. we've got to find a way to sneak in some rest because that is a long time to stay on 10.
I was thinking about this quite in depth this week as I went on my very out of shape run this morning.
In Bandit clothing?
In Bandit clothing, of course. But I was thinking, this is a really challenging year to time. There's only about a month in between the Olympic trials and the games. So it's how are you, and you have to be at the top of your game. People are running faster than ever before. Like, what is the game plan going in? And, like, what are those moments you need to peak? Because a lot of these athletes really need to get wins to have the confidence to perform at the trials. But, like, from February until August, that is one of the most challenging feats in sport.
I think the thing that you'll see is more so in an Olympic year than any other year, athletes will drop out of races last second. Like, if things are not perfect, you don't necessarily risk it in an Olympic year. But if momentum is good, you do want to start building that confidence. And look, we see it every year where someone comes out and they crush it early, and it's like, oh, they're not going to hold it. And then guess what happens? Like, Josh Kerr wins the 3K, and then he wins Worlds. Like, you can hold it. You can do it. There's this idea in some camps that you can only peak once a year. It's not true. We saw Centro win World Indoors and then come around and win the Olympic that same year. We've seen that multiple times across all event groups. You can do both. And indoors, though, like, you blink and it's over.
Yeah. So one quick thing before we start touching on all of the events is, like, it's a loaded calendar year, right? With World Cross, World Indoors, just regular indoor meets, and then prepping for the outdoor season that a lot of these athletes are picking and choosing where their priorities are. And sandwiched in between two guys, one who will be going to World Indoors. Anderson will be there getting interviews and all the good stuff from Glasgow. And then one of the biggest World Indoor proponents here, Kyle, who's like you've just kind of bookmarked that whole weekend. You're like, you nonstop text me and Mac, like, what are we doing for World Indoors? What are we doing?
Yeah, I didn't have enough PTO to go myself. I'm saving it for the Olympics.
So, all right, for the two of you, I guess make the case why, like, you know, some of these athletes have been very quick to be like, no, I'm prioritizing the outdoor season, just training through the indoor season. What is the draw of the World Indoor Championships in a year like this that they should go?
Yeah, well, it's another title that you have the chance. It's like bragging rights going into the Olympic year. And I'm actually surprised how many athletes have said that they are going to take on, you know, World Indoors. I think Yared said he's going to be running. Noah Lyles, Christian Coleman, right? So it's another thing where I could say, okay, I proved myself indoors. Now I'm going into the Olympics, and you have to beat me. Y'all have to actually beat me when going into these races.
Anderson, do you think it makes a difference, though, for a sprinter versus a distance runner? Because I feel like with the sprints, you want to go head-to-head. More reps it seems like the sprinters have a better ability to race more frequently against their main competition. Versus some of the distance runners. So I kind of want to get both of your takes on that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the sprinters, they're all about those bragging rights. They are all like, I'm going to put down this marker. I want to get into the head of my competition, right? I want to put something out. And especially when you're talking about, like, the 60-meter dash that translates into the 100. I want to make sure I'm showing people I'm the fastest in the world right now. You have to come and beat me, right? So, and even like the sprinters, the hurdlers, across the board, I really think they want to put something down.
I think the reason why I'm such a big fan of World Indoors is because indoor track, short track, in general, is an environment that is really difficult to replicate at most meet outdoors. You'll see it here at the Millrose Games. The fans are on top of you. It is loud. It is hot. Like, there's a lot of intensity and pressure, and that's harder to get at some really great outdoor meets. It's just difficult to replicate. And so from, like, a building the sport standpoint, I always think that indoor track is easier. It's easier to fill a 200-meter track with fans than it is 400 meters. But from an athlete's perspective, and I think of this again from, like, the distance side of things, it's tactical in a way that is very, very difficult to replicate in all of their meets throughout the year.
It's physical. I think it's, like, one of the most physical environments, too. Like, you have 200 to go, and everyone's there at the bell. I think we're going to see some crazy finishes here today where you have to maintain your space and someone can slide through the tiniest little spot on the inside.
Yeah, and it's from an athlete's perspective, you spend all season long building up towards the trials or the Olympics, and then all of a sudden you're thrust in this position where you have to remember how to learn tactically. And for athletes who've been out of the NCAA for a little while, you really don't get those opportunities. Or
if you've only been in paced races.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And so it is like an opportunity of, like, hey, like, get used to boxing out, having your space, making moves quickly, covering others. And so I think in terms of learning and getting into the habit of actually racing indoors is huge, because even a paced race indoors will have that pace change and the number of guys on top of each other, because no one's going into lane 2. And so it is a little bit of a different scenario.
And I'll even say a lot of the sprinters, they're working on technical things. You hear sprinters saying, I need to work on my start, my first 30 meters. Hurdlers, I need to work on my first 5 hurdles, so when I go outdoors, I'm able to carry it through, right? So there's a lot of technical aspects that these athletes are working on that's going to translate when we get to outdoors.
Sometimes you'll hear a sprinter be like, don't worry about the time, that was great. I was like, what do you mean? It was like, oh, my first 5 steps. I was like, I don't know, what about the rest of the steps? How did those go?
That's why we need that camera that goes slow-mo along the side of them, because I'm like, I couldn't see the first 5 steps.
They do such a good job during the Olympics. I guess there's just no rail here to get it. But
that's my favorite camera view of all time, the slow-mo. And World Athletics does such an amazing job on their social media channels, especially on TikTok, remixing it to every single possible song.
Except for Universal Music.
Except for Universal Music. But you're like, wow, the London 2017 World Championships are popular again. Let's do a more relevant time.
All right, so shall we dive into
some races?
All right, so let's start with, let's go through the schedule in order, because that saves the best for last, both the 2 miles and the Wanamaker miles. But it starts with the hurdles. The TV window starts at 1 o'clock p.m. It'll be on NBC. I mean, it's Super Bowl Sunday. I'm not entirely sure if I agree with the idea of, say, Peacock and the NBC Sports app, but it gets started with the women's 60-meter hurdles and the men's 60-meter hurdles. And in this one, the big stars, women's side, Nia Ali, men's side. I mean, the men's race, I think, is really stacked. But Anderson, I guess you had the chance to speak with Nia Ali and a couple of these other athletes. What do we have to look out for in the hurdles?
Yeah, so Nia Ali, like you said, I got to speak to her yesterday. I mean, she's really focused on time, which is kind of crazy. She's a 2-time world indoor champion. She's an Olympic medalist, a world outdoor champion. She's like, I already proved myself at the top. I just need to compete with some of the best ladies when we're talking about time. And I really think Nia, she has a good, a really good field that she's competing against, but Danielle Williams is here.
Yep, world
Tia
champ.
Jones, right? I think that's going to be some really, really good head-to-heads. Devin Charlton has been running well, so I'm looking forward to see how Nia Ali stacks up against someone like Tia Jones. Tia Jones just won in Boston, but...
Tia Jones also never ran indoor track very seriously these last few years. Yeah. And so to come out and all of a sudden take to the event really, really well. I mean, her time last year would win NCAA's most years, just about.
And she went pro straight out of high school.
So she never even had the opportunity to.
Yeah.
So, I mean, in that sense, it's kind of cool to see a matchup between her and a Kerr Nugent, because you're not going to see that at NCAA championships. And so this is kind of that opportunity of what could have been at the NCAA meet.
Yeah.
Anderson, what do you think about an athlete that's opening up at Milrose versus one that's had a couple of reps throughout the season? Kind of what does that pressure look like when you're kind of opening up against some of the best in the world?
If it was me, I probably wouldn't open up at Milrose, considering how stacked these fields are. Right? I would get a couple races in, but I mean, I think it shows that they're throwing themselves in the fire. They're not scared to compete with the best. Again, looking at both hurdle fields, they're super, super stacked, but these athletes know that, okay, if I want to be one of the best in the world, I have to show up and compete with the best in the world. So it'd be good, I think we'd like to see some athletes open up a little bit earlier, but hey, throw yourself in the fire. I'm with it.
What do we think of just the pressure on Danielle Williams this season? Wins Worlds Outdoors in 2015. I mean, there are 8-year-olds out there who are alive and don't know that they never got to see a championship parade, and then comes out and wins again last year. Now starting the season a little bit different of a position. Our eyes suddenly on her in a different way, especially I'm thinking of the Jamaicans, now winning worlds, great, love it. Now the pressure is on.
Yeah, and even more pressure, she's never made an Olympic team. So she's
wow, didn't even realize that.
Which is crazy. Again, she's a 2-time world champion, but she's never made an Olympic team. So she was saying that I think this might be one and done for her, just running this race at Milrose, but she really wants to set the tone of okay, I'm one of the best. I am literally the best, the world champion, and I'm going to make the Olympic team, and I want to get on the podium. So we're going to see.
one year, CITIUS is going to make it to the Jamaican trials because the craziest things happen at the Jamaican trials.
And then we find out about medical exemptions and all
Right,
this stuff, and it's like, oh, they still made it the team. Jamaican trials is crazy. Flipping over to the men's side, American headliners in this one: Cordell Tinch, Trey Cunningham, Daniel Roberts. A lot of these guys ran last weekend. I mean, I've got to say, I've liked what I've seen out of Trey Cunningham this early on in the season. He had that one good race, I believe it was at the University of Florida earlier in the season. And then, I mean, like when Grant Holloway's in the field, like he's going to win this race.
It's nice to let someone else have one this weekend, Grant. Like, you stay home, you relax.
But, I mean, Grant's streak and like his dominance in this event is remarkable. But I honestly think Trey Cunningham is starting to figure out this race.
Yeah. People sleep on the fact that back in Eugene, Trey Cunningham got the silver medal at the World Championships, right?
Like, he was injured last year,
He was injured last year, so he couldn't compete. But like, when he gets in a race with Grant, he doesn't want to lose. And even though Grant is undefeated, I think Trey is going to come out here and put something down, like showing, okay, just because I lost last week doesn't mean I can't be one of the best in the world.
And we need this head-to-head. We need some more, some interest in the event. We need to mix things up.
Exactly. That's what I really want to see between Trey Cunningham, Grant Holloway, Daniel Roberts, right? I love that the hurdlers always go head-to-head all the time. They're never scared to face each other. So I think it's going to be pretty good.
I do think from the perspective of Daniel Roberts, Cordell Tinch, Trey Cunningham, if you're going to close the gap on Grant Holloway, it's like there's a lot of room to improve in that first 60, right? Like if you're going to beat him at the biggest stage, that's the opportunity there, is like continue to get out well. Because in the last 40, we have seen that Trey and Daniel can close. But Grant is so much better in that first 60 that's the area that, if I was coach, that's where we can close it.
Yeah. And I'd also say don't sleep on Cordell Tinch. I mean, the D2 megastar coming out of last year. I mean, he wants to prove himself that, like, listen, even though I made the team last year and I didn't get into the finals, didn't get a medal, I want to be one of the best, right? I want to be one of the best coming out of D2. So, yeah, I'm excited to see what Cordell Tinch really does.
Yeah, we've got an episode of Out of the Blocks coming out with him, I believe not this week, but next week. So stay tuned for that. So that does it for do you have any hot predictions?
Oh, man. Between Trey Cunningham, Daniel Roberts, I'm looking at one of those two to kind of get the win. I'd love to say it'd be a tie, but I'm probably going to give the edge maybe to Daniel Roberts. I feel like he gets a little overshadowed, so I think Daniel Roberts might edge out the win.
And then on the women's side?
On the women's side, I'm looking at Tia Jones again. Tia Jones won in Boston, but it's going to be a competitive field. But let's say Tia Jones there.
All right. Let's move over. Let's remove the hurdles, and it's just the 60-meter dash. Women's 60, men's 60. Women's 60 field is headline. Is Brianna Williams running both events?
I think so.
She's entered in both,
which is crazy. I don't know what's going on.
What's the rest?
That timing doesn't really work out.
It is
13 minutes.
13 minutes.
That can be done.
That sounds like a recipe for disaster.
Yeah. This one, a little bit of the spice got taken out when Dina Asher-Smith withdrew from the race. That was slated to be her Millrose Games debut. We still have World Championship finalist and last year's NCAA 100 and 200-meter champion Julien Alfred making her Millrose Games debut. I feel like it's all eyes on Julien Alfred.
This is all about Julien Alfred. I think she's run 7:04 this year. She's been like clicking off extremely fast times, but I think Julien Alfred really here during the indoor season is proving, just because I'm not American, just because I'm not Jamaican, I'm in the mix. Like, I can insert myself in that little rivalry that we kind of have going on, and I think Julien Alfred has a good shot. She said she's going to World Indoors. She could become World Indoor Champion, and going back to what I said, that'll set the tone for outdoors. Like, you all have to come and get me. I don't know.
Something that I am interested to watch this year for Julien is she raced so much last year. While in the NCAA season, you got, you're tripling every weekend, it seems. There's a different conference meet and regional meet and NCAA championship, and she's winning them all. But the approach to the season now can be so much more intentional. And the thing that I'm interested to see is, and she did an amazing job last year of holding on to that fitness that she had very, very early on in the winter, all the way until the World Championships. But I am interested to see, does she come out a little bit slower this year on purpose and say, hey, like, I've got all this time to build up? Or do you look for that race sharpness that clearly has worked? It's comfortable. Like, let's not get too far away from the system.
There's some sort of collegiate playbook there. Like the people that come to mind, like Bryce Hoppel's mega long season, Abby Steiner. Like you have these collegiates who are just on it, firing. And I think there is something to collecting the wins, like collecting the Infinity Stones or whatever. It's just, there's something to these athletes that gives you a ton of confidence. So I'd be cautious if I was a Julien Alfred to totally scale back, because it does make you feel sharp, feel ready. But you do have to be strategic about what your season looks like.
As a pro, no shame in losing to college kids in the winter. Like, like they're doing something different. They've got a different plan. They have different incentives in place.
That's why you shouldn't race them.
Yeah. High schoolers. You don't want to lose to high schoolers.
That's a whole different thing.
But college, that's all right.
For Julien Alfred, I mean, Flo knows. Like, that's you just got to subscribe to the fact that, like, you've got one of the best coaches in the world. Yeah. You're in good hands. But I'm also reminded a little bit about, like, the same way Noah Lyles approached last year's indoor season, where it's like, oh, you run the 60 enough times, you're going to pick up on these little things to get that start better, and then, like, we'll see how it pays off. I mean, I put her in the medal conversation last year at Worlds, and so if she's only getting better in that front part of the race, then, I mean, who knows what we could see in Paris, but it's still a ways away. Kudos to English Gardner for, keeping it going. Another season. She's just from Jersey, so I'm sure she'll have lots of friends and family here, but the longevity here is incredible.
It's crazy. I was watching her back in Oregon, like, seems like a decade ago, and she's still in the mix here at Milrose. I mean, huge kudos to her. And she's always been in the mix. She's always been a gamer. She's always been, a fighter, and I just love to see her always consistently out there.
Fan favorite for sure. Yeah. All right, on the men's side, men's 60, the world record holders in the house, Christian Coleman, 634 PB. This is where he's opening up. I think he had mentioned when I had a podcast recording with him a month or so back that he was going to try and run like a 200 or something like that at a low-key race. I don't know if he ever did.
I think he might have opened up a week or two ago.
Okay, but he still hasn't run a 60. Yeah. It's him versus Andre DeGrasse, someone who has not really run all that much indoors. You talked to him yesterday.
Yeah, he's like, I literally said, like, why indoors? Why the 60 meters? And he laughed. He's like, yeah, I'm not even like a good starter. People don't look at me like that. But I mean, Andre is trying to prove that he could be competitive in the 100 meters outdoor. I think he said he's going for the Canadian record, which is like 9:84 or something like that. But yeah, I love to see Andre out here. But
Ben Johnson still? No.
I think that's Donovan Bailey.
Okay.
1996, the Olympic Games. But yeah, I mean, Andre is out here, but yeah, Christian Coleman, like I spoke to him yesterday, and he's ready to like throw something down. He said he wants to put a marker down. Again, he's going for World Indoors. Man, I'm excited.
I don't think he took to losing the last World Indoor Championship all that well. Yeah. Was it Marcel Jacobs
won?
Yeah, and it was Marvin was also in that one. Mm-hmm. This is his event, and I think like he's someone who like in the last couple of years has been just off the podium in the outdoor season. It's like I think he's back to trying to prove that it's like, no, I'm not just a 60 guy. Like I was the world champion in 2019.
Yeah, I mean, Christian, I feel like, is all business.
Yeah.
And he's competitive as hell. Look, he got asked about Noah Lyles yesterday in one interview, and he walked away.
Like, not us.
Not us. No, he talked to Anderson for 7.5 minutes.
Go watch the interview.
But, like, look, it's naturally, that's going to sting a little bit. The last two, I mean, I think especially in 2022, the sweep of the podium to be the one American not on that, like, that's a fire under his ass. And I think that in an Olympic year, we're going to see him coming out really, really firing. Look, I don't know if we're seeing 634, the first race out of the blocks, but look, I think Noah kind of set the bar and said, look, 644, if I'm doing that, like, if you're Christian, that's his strength is that first 60 comparatively, because Noah's going to have the last 40, right? Like, so if you're going to get him, it's going to be in that first 60 meters come outdoors.
Can I just say something kind of rogue? But the thing about the Armory that freaks me out the most in the 60 is I don't know if you can see behind us, they hit the back.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
So
those
hard
pads.
here.
Ashton Eaton went over.
That's what I was gonna
one
say.
In
eight.
a way that I don't see at other races. I don't know
Yeah.
what. Maybe we're just on top of it in the Armory. Is that something you consider? Of let me work in the first 5 seconds, shut it down because I'm gonna hit it so hard.
Yeah.
Every time I watch these races in the 60, I am terrified.
It feels like we could have a new technology beyond.
I want to know
whatever
impact.
the
Like,
yeah,
you know how we measure like how hard a baseball hits a bat? Like I want to know how hard these guys are.
Can
hitting
we
that
put a
ball.
sensor
Put
back
some
there?
sensors in.
I have
Slam
an
meter.
incredible idea to the partnerships managers at the Armory. That's a Tempur-Pedic sponsorship.
Oh,
Casper mattress.
good.
Calling your
Like,
name.
that is, there should be a mattress sponsor that you hit, right? That'd be.
Mattress firm.
But is that just me? Like I literally every time I come here, I get so scared.
That's
in
like the
sprints.
second part of the race. Like you watch the 60 and then you're like watching the last 20 to see
I
what
think you
happens
really
after.
kind of would like to be in the outside lane so you can at least roll off a little bit.
Yeah.
You don't want to get tangled with people.
It's and it's gonna be. So the meet's sold out. That's gonna be a standing room right behind it.
So it might be falling right on me.
yeah, that's where Dana's gonna be tomorrow.
I will say though, just on Christian, like low key, like Noah says Boston is his house. This is his house. He's the 2-time defending champion. He's never lost. He gave like the shush motion last year
And the
like,
wave,
and the
like-
wave. Like listen, Christian, like you said, might put something down crazy. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I also, we obviously have Akeem Blake back here who, like, if someone
Yeah.
is going to threaten Christian, it's Blake, right? Like, ultimately, he almost beat Noah last weekend. He's got, I would say, at the tippy top, he hasn't really proven himself at the Olympic and World Championship final in the same way that Noah and Christian have. But, like, we've seen him run fast. Like, we know that is in there. He's still young. And this might, like, if there's a year to bring it out, good place to start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So I think with these two races, it feels pretty easy. We're all in agreement. It's Coleman and Alfred, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a top-heavy favorite race. Then
Do we go 800 or 2 mile? Because they're kind of broken up a little bit here.
let's go.
800?
Let's go 800.
Go up the
I see
ladder.
there's a couple youth races, but we all know the real youth races are taking place at New Balance Nationals in a couple of weeks in Boston. All right. So let's go to the 800. For me, I look at this field, and I'm thinking we're missing like one more heavy hitter, right? Like I still think about Donovan Brazier crushing everybody here in 2020 and just how vicious that move was. And now it's like I miss him. I want Donovan Brazier to get healthy again so you get back to races. It feels like we're still a ways off from that. Still some solid names in this.
Yeah,
one.
I mean, Bryce Hoppel is going to be the favorite in this field. We know he's pretty fit right now. He just ran 2:16 in the 1K last weekend at New Balance. I think if Bryce is like a more true 800 guy, so if he's coming out and opening up strong in the 1K, he's fit, he's ready to go.
But I smell a take from you that's coming.
Well,
You think someone else might.
The take is Sal Ordonez.
Oh, that's not what I thought you were going to say.
Is a very, very serious threat. He's run 144 many times before. He was fourth here a couple years ago. Third if you take out some guys who've recently been banned for 4 years. But so, like, he made a classic Millrose Games mistake of just going out too slow. And these races are going to get out hot. They're going to string out. And if you're in the back of the field, it's just really tough to close that gap. There's too many guys to pass, and the bends are too high. And so I think for him, the key is going to be like, let's get in that pocket early. Let's not wait. But he is someone that probably a lot of American fans aren't super familiar with. But, I mean, like, his bad races is like 145. Like, he's super consistent.
I mean, 2 years ago, I forget, it was I believe the New Balance Boston Grand Prix that took place in Staten Island was just like the invasion of Spain, that they came out here. Because these are, I guess, one thing to remember is that this is part of the World Indoor Tour. So, like, there's points on the line, there's, all those add up, and you can get a berth to the World Indoor Championships. And so that's why you sometimes think it's like, oh, why is this athlete from Spain making the trip all the way out here? It's like, no, it's like, it's all for a purpose. And so he's the one to watch. I know you're decked out in some amazingly nice Bandit gear, but I thought you would have an Atlanta Track Club shirt for this one.
Yeah, well, Luciano Fiore, he came out here, Atlanta Track Club's own, and he got his bid from the Dr. Sander Invitational,
Yeah.
which is a really cool way to like fill out the fields at Milrose. Is if you win the 800 or the mile, Dr. Sander, then you get a spot on the line. Luciano came out, closed super hard in that 800, secured a spot, was fired up about it. I think he's a dark horse, but New Yorkers are, of course, familiar with him. And then I would say another person that we're overlooking is Mark English.
Okay.
I mean, Mark just ran the 600 New Balance last week, looked fantastic doing it, and has been one of those guys who closes very, very hard. It's almost like every single 800 I ever watch him run, it's like if only there was 50 more meters. And I think, just based off his fitness last week, Mark's someone who I'm looking at.
One thing we've been talking about a lot I feel like for the past 3 years with the men's 800 is that we need more consistency with names.
Yeah.
We need more head-to-heads. And I think this could be the start of a new era for the men's 800. We want some heavy hitters, some fast times early. I want this to be an interesting event this year. Like, I really want us to take a step back to the level where we're pushing on some, like, crazy times. And I think that would really bring some, like, life and interest back into this event.
Yeah, because David Rudisha ain't walking through those doors to save the event this year.
Well, it's amazing how quickly also we move on from Noah Cabet, who was the name to talk about a year ago. But
we've got 3 guys ranked in the top 20 in the world and in this race, and Noah Cabet, I don't see his ranking next to it at all. Silver medalist at the last
and I mean, he won the event last year. So obviously Noah Cabet is someone who can win this again. He ran 144 last year. His outdoor season was good, but it wasn't great like that. And I think that's ultimately why he's not the leading story here. Is he ran 144 at Millrose Games, and when he goes to the outdoor season, he really didn't improve much on that. He won in New Mexico, running 147 low earlier this season. He got under 4 minutes in the mile. I believe for the first time, but he is the former world indoor silver medalist. And so, look, if he's back in shape, he's the guy who's going to really contend with Bryce. It's just last outdoor, and again, I'm sure someone is, I can't believe you're not leading with Noah Cabet. It's just because his last outdoor season wasn't spectacular.
This is all a game of what have you done for me lately. All right, so if you were to make your prediction, who you got in this one, Kyle and Dana?
I feel like I just talked myself into Noah Cabet.
Dana?
I'll go with Bryce. Bryce, he knows how to win.
Yeah, and he's been at this meet multiple times. This one always gets physical here at the Millrose Games.
I tell you, it scares me out there a little bit, especially in the 8, because there's some height in the 800-meter runners, too. So you can really get caught up in the turns here, especially in that last 200.
Yeah, last year was super, super physical from what I remember. And but I think Bryce is going to put down. Bryce wants to bring some of that energy back to the 800, and I think he's going to be the guy to do
Get back in his winning ways.
Right?
And you know what? He wants global medals. Bryce has his expectations very high for himself.
Bryce is also doing altitude for the first time this year a little bit. He's been pairing up with the very nice track club guys in Flagstaff, and so look, new skill unlocked.
So
the
does he
ability
do
to come down.
the 48-hour altitude, come down to the 10-day?
He's on the 10-day cycle.
He's on the 10-day.
All right, let's shift gears to the women's
Talk
2
about
mile.
The 2 mile, not the 8.
I don't see the women's 8.
It's near the bottom.
Oh.
We'll stick with the same event.
All right, let's go to women's 8
Let's do
then.
the 8.
Well, I'm just gonna say you can't talk about missing superstars that own the Armory.
Yeah.
Very true.
Ajay Wilson's not on the start line. New Jersey's own.
Yeah.
This is weird for me personally.
What was it? It was like she had never lost a Millrose 800
Like 13
or
years.
at Millrose. Yeah, it's like an unbelievable.
I think so, yeah.
Someone fact check us on that number, but
Yeah, we were the ones who made the graphic.
She
for
should
it.
be the starter. Just like
I mean, they should rename the race after her at that point because.
I don't think the Stern family would like that very much.
All right, Stern family dash Ajay. No, I think there is so much depth on the U.S. side. We have 5 out of 7 Americans in this field, so
2 of
probably
them
one
ranked.
of our least international fields on the docket today. But we're just seeing Ajay not out here, probably trying something new this season. Well, we have Kayla Edwards, Allie Wilson, Raven Rogers, Olivia Baker, and Emily Richards, all representing the U.S.
Yeah, I think in this one, Allie Wilson comes in with momentum, having also, no, she didn't win. She finished second, but still got into the race just a couple weeks ago at the Dr. Sander Invitational. Olivia Baker just narrowly beat her in that one. Former training partners, Allie Wilson decided to follow Coach Amy Yoder-Begley to Indianapolis and is now training there, unattached.
Yeah, Allie's unsponsored, so there's a lot on the line for this year. Like, if you can come out early, throw down a good time, like, there's sponsorship opportunity available, and I think it takes a lot of guts to say, like, I'm going with the coaches that are working for me. I don't want to change anything before an Olympic year. Like, obviously moving is a big change, but there must be some comfort of having Olivia Baker out there, Olivia Baker, New Jersey's own. This is also Olivia's home turf, and I'm really excited this year for Olivia Baker. I think we saw a little bit last summer of what Olivia can do, but coming out very good tactically and has just grinded for so long.
Well, I was speaking to Coach Tommy Nohilly after the race at the Dr. Sanders Invitational, in which Olivia, out-leaned Allie. And he said, coming in, she's really, really fit. Like, Olivia has running more mileage than ever. She's got such great natural speed. But the big thing that he wanted to work on with her was a little bit of patience in that first half of the race. Historically, it seems like Olivia is always the one chasing the rabbit, setting the tone, and then struggles in the final 100 to hold it on and, finishes second and third. But what happened at Dr. Sander was, hey, I'm not going to be the one to fall on the sword. I'm going to sit on Allie. And then, look, the tables turned a little bit. Who had the best last 200? It was Olivia. And so I do think that something in having a new coach is not only changing up training, but changing the approaches to the actual racing and the game plan. And so if you're going to make the 800 team this year in the U.S., you have to be perfect.
And you also have to beat Raven Rogers, who's also in this field, who we haven't discussed yet.
Even, speaking of tactics, last week in Boston, Raven set a personal best in the 400, and she literally called herself, she's like, I was a little softy. I'm trying to learn to be a little more aggressive. So I don't know what she's going to come out here and do in the 800, her 800 opener, I think, for the year, right? So
that's a soft 400 PB for her, though, right?
Probably true, yeah.
She was 53 flat or so.
53 flat indoors,
she's definitely split 49 or 50 before.
Yeah. She was killing those Oregon splits, right? But, just thinking of those tactics, though, I don't know. What do you think Raven Rogers is going to do out here?
Last week's a good test because, when we talk about just, the aggressive nature of running an 800 here at the Armory, from last week, I remember watching your interview that you did with Vernon Norwood, and he's like, no, the 400 is very physical indoors. And so I think that's a good thing to get out of the way, a little bit of practice last week. And, but it's just so interesting just how over the last couple of years, Raven is constantly, I think, a little overlooked from, Ajay tends to win, the indoor titles and a lot of the big indoor races, and in outdoor season, the thing is there. But, Raven's just kind of been consistently at that top level this whole entire time. I would love for this to be her getting her swagger back and going into, the U.S. championships, if she chooses to do that, a big opportunity for her to come away from that World Indoor Championships with a medal.
And Raven last year in the mixed zone consistently was saying, I'm coming at this with a new mindset. I feel like I'm a different person. I feel calm. I feel in charge. And I think that for a lot of these women, this is a field that's been consistent. These women have been doing this event for a long time, so there's a lot of experience in here. But if you're a Raven, you know how to win at the global stage. And if you're coming in with this rebirth of who you are in the sport, I think that's a deadly combination that we should watch out for.
The dark horse that does not have an American flag next to her name is Gabija Galvidite, and so the Lithuanian Galvidite. There we go. That's a better pronunciation than whatever I just did. But she's run 2 flat and is twice the NCAA runner-up. And I always look at people's middle distance runners' progression during the cross country season versus how they've done in the past. And for an 800 runner, she came out and was 48th at NCAAs. And it's really that is a new strength unlocked that she had never previously had. And so all year I'm looking at her as, look, she's not only going to potentially challenge Michaela Rose at the NCAA championships, who just ran the second fastest NCAA indoor of all time, but she's a potential finalist and is a potential medal threat if she times things right and continues to get stronger. And so, she's had a solid indoor season so far. She ran 2:02, but look, no one in this field so far this indoor season has indicated that they're really ready to rip yet. It seems like on paper, this would probably get 1 and about 2 flat, so she's going to be in it.
Yeah, that's what I really think, right? Anyone on this list could win this race, right? And I really think that'll set the tone for whatever happens the rest of the season. So, yeah.
Who's your pick?
I'm going Raven.
Yeah, I'm going Raven, but I really like Olivia. You kind of convinced
I'm
me.
going Olivia. I'm going Olivia.
You going Gabby Gavarite?
Just for fun, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Love it. All right, let's go to the women's 2 mile. I think was the next one up on the schedule. Now this one, it's stacked. Both the 2 mile races have, heavy hitters. Alicia Monson, who won the 3K here last year, versus the U.S. 1500 meter champion Nikki Hilt. But then just a couple days ago, we get the news that Laura Muir decided to pass on defending her Wanamaker mile title and is moving up to the 2 mile because she ran a really fast 3K in December at just a low-key meet in Cardiff.
Yep.
But apparently it wasn't on the World Athletics calendar, and so it didn't have the proper certification to count towards the World Indoor Championship qualifying, and so her season is just that meet, this meet, and World Indoors. So she's going to run the 2 mile, get a 3K split that will count towards that. And now it makes the race interesting because, 1, we're guaranteed it's going to go fast. And 2, how does Alicia Monson respond to that? Monson, who the only thing we've seen so far this indoor season was her pacing that 5K at BU and looked good.
I think when Laura Muir switches into this race, it just becomes arguably the most interesting race of the entire meet, right? Like it's a toss-up between 4 women of who can win this.
Okay.
Tell me if I'm missing someone, but I see this as a race between Monson, Muir.
Who are your 4? I don't know. Tanaka.
Throw Wayman in there.
Wayman. Okay, so then I think it becomes really like a 3-woman race. Whereas before, I felt like it was just going to be the Alicia Monson show a little bit. Is that fair to say? Like, I felt like she's won the race 3 times before. She looked good. And I just feel like all of a sudden, like, Laura Muir is that storyline there. Like, Nikki could come out and mix it up. Courtney could, but it feels like a little bit more of a toss-up now, and it's going to go fast because every time Laura Muir steps on the track, it's going to go fast. And to have her and Alicia Monson, 2 athletes who race very similarly in that way, they're going to be fighting for the one who gets to sit on the rabbit, which is such a rare thing. So I just see 2 athletes who are really not going to be scared to push themselves really, really hard early on.
And we have our 2 Ethiopian athletes as well who have run 8:30s in the 3K. Yeah. Also, we're going to mix things up too. So the real question is, if it goes fast, like how close are we talking to the U.S. indoor record set by Ellie St. Pierre over in Staten Island? So I'd love to see that go down. Just because I like to see a record broken at a meet. We can't have one without in this day and age. I think that's really interesting. It's a big field, 14. Maybe someone's a pacer, so 13. In here, I think Lori Barton just raced. I'm not sure.
She might be pacing, yeah.
She might be pacing. So I want these women to go fast. The funniest thing in this field, if you look at the start list to me, is Emily Infelds has her high school PR on there, 10:31:26. She put on her Instagram story today. It was like, so glad they brought that one up. But I think this is going to be a good test. Like, we've seen some marks from Wayman. We know Monson's going to be fit, but there also could be someone mixing it up. But an A+ day for me would be seeing the American record go down.
Yeah. Is it, Kyle, you wrote about this in the lap count a couple weeks ago, following the really fast 5Ks at BU, about just how it was a win for all the other shoe brands and like the advances we've seen in spike technology. Like, I don't think we should overlook NAZ Elite here based off of like what Adrian Wilshut did in Boston. It's like Chrissy Gear, now you remove the water barriers and like the hurdles. It's like U.S. steeplechase champion. I get that Monson's on a whole nother level, being the 5K, 10K record holder. But there's a subplot here that it's like we could see some really good races from someone like her.
Well, Chrissy wasn't a steeplechaser until last spring. Like, she had done it once before a long time ago, but
That should have been my plan. What was I thinking?
so she definitely is someone who has proven that she can run flat races really well, and now is the U.S. steeplechase champ. Like, yes, we just don't know because we haven't seen her race yet this season. And then Medina Isa has run 14:16. She wasn't necessarily with Jess and Ellie last weekend, so I don't know if she's currently in 14:16 shape. But look, like, if you ran 8:32 a week ago, then that means that this weekend you're gonna be in that 9:10 range. Like, that is very much within reach. And so if you're under the American record pace again for Ethiopia, the Ethiopian record's a little bit harder because it's the world record.
Nice flat.
But
Is that Dababa?
Yep.
Dababa.
Yeah.
so she's someone that we definitely can't sleep on.
I don't have a prediction, but let's see a record go down.
All right, wait. So we're not gonna do predictions on this one.
Okay, then mine's Monson record.
Okay.
Duo.
Laura Muir world record.
World record.
Whoa.
I think it's I think it's such a rare time for Laura Muir, whose 3,000 meter personal best is from 2017, which is a testament to how long Laura Muir has been this good. But if she was running as competitive times as she was by herself in Cardiff in December, then I think that things have obviously only progressed from there. I don't think 9 flat is like a crazy time.
I don't think it's crazy. I just am like a little cautious if they could get a pacer.
She has Alicia Monson.
I know she's Lisa Monson, but it kind of depends what Alicia wants to do. But if they're willing to go fast, I agree with that.
Yeah.
But if there's a pacer in there, I think it could really mess things up, honestly, in this race. And I kind of think we should just like take the rabbit out and let them see that they can do.
Let them get going, but short
I was going to
term
say,
rabbit.
I think Laura Muir is probably going to take this. I can't predict a world record, but just the fact
World
that
record's so fast.
it's like insane. Dababa was like throwing down world records like nothing back then.
Like 10 years ago, though. It's time.
Yeah, it's 2014. Like, come on, things have changed.
She didn't even have the shoes.
But if I told you that last weekend, if Laura Muir had raced Jess and Ellie, like, do you not put her right in there? And an 8:24 is not very different from 9 flat. Like, it's a few seconds.
Yeah.
And now you have Alicia Monson, who is one to turn the screws and really, like, keep this thing going. It's just not the craziest thing, and we're having fun on our preview show.
Yeah.
And so I'm throwing world record in. Tune into the Millrose Games. I guarantee Laura Muir breaks the 2-mile world record.
I can't wait to see how this ages. I'm so excited.
my only hesitation, and I'll pick Laura Muir for the win, not world record though, is because I think coming off of the BU meet and just remembering kind of some of Coach Jathan Ritzenhein's comments afterwards, it was that they're a little bit behind on like their training, like 3 or 4 weeks behind on. They had a later start to things, like
He's sandbagging you.
I think and Alicia also had COVID, I think, about a month or so ago. So she seems to be on the mend and like is obviously lining
All
up.
right, let me ask you this question. If you're Alicia Monson and you have Laura Muir in the race, then how do you beat her except to go hard? You're not going to, like,
No, you don't let her go.
Like, that's Alicia's best chance of actually winning the race is making it
And
fast.
Laura definitely has better top speed, so.
And they're like is clearly strong and but in Alicia's like historical performances, that's how she wins. She doesn't win in the last 200 of races. She wins by just beating everyone to a pulp. And it doesn't matter if that is, someone from the U.S. or, someone of Laura Muir's range and ability. Like, if that's your best way to race, then you got to do it. And so, for that reason, I see it going fast. It's not going to
For
lag.
that reason, I'm out.
All right. Kyle predicts a world record. Stick him with his guns. All right. Let's move real quick. We'll touch on the women's high jump. I mean, Yaroslav Mahuchik is the star of this one. Opened up with a 204 clearance, the highest I think she's ever. It's number 1 in the world, reigning world champion.
Yeah.
It's going to be her.
I mean, it's probably going to be her. I'm just excited. The fact I love to see Europeans coming over to the U.S. to compete here. So seeing Mahuchik here. I mean, Vashti Cunningham. I think she's a previous world indoor champion from when she was like in high school.
2014, I think.
Yeah, something like that. So that might be good. But yeah, I mean, Mahuchik is probably going to take.
Something that I'm really looking forward to in the women's high jump is that it's going to be center stage tomorrow.
Oh, really?
So,
Yeah,
so normally when you think about the Millrose Games, I was looking at the 2008 Millrose Games schedule the other day because it was. I was like, wow, like Sunday, 1 o'clock. That's like an interesting. I vaguely recall being on the track at MSG in 2008, super late at night. I looked it up. And that meet ended at 10:30.
Wow.
So like on a Friday night. So that's an interesting shift from the
We
Garden.
knew this
to
was going to
here.
happen. This is Kyle plugging his
Yeah, plugging
Millrose
his Millrose
Games
Games
win
victory.
from.
Oh, I didn't say it. You brought it up. I was just going to talk about the schedule. But
He was back at
the year was
Madison
2008.
Square Garden.
My hair was long and my dreams were big.
and my singlet was huge.
It was.
But back at the MSG days, they would have 40 minutes allotted to just the shot put, meaning nothing else was happening under the lights, shot put center stage. It was really a unique experience, and they've done similar things at the Armory this year. No shot put. Instead, the women's high jump, starting when it is at 145 towards the end of the meet, is going to have all eyes on Yaroslava and like the prime time like seats right in front of everyone. And it's just again, like that's the opportunity that you get indoors that you don't always get outdoors. And I think specifically for certain events, to get that highlight that you wouldn't ever get outside of a world championship is really fun.
Very true, very true. Yeah, last year with the shot put, it was like center stage, everything was like set up for it. So
We don't talk about last year's shot put.
that's true.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. All right, then real quick, before we take a very brief break, we've got the women's 300 meters, and it's a smaller field. You got Leah Anderson, Talitha Diggs, Rashida Adeleke, and Candice McLeod. Talitha Diggs making, I think, her indoor pro debut.
Yeah.
What do you make of this one? My take, Adasia Hodge is in the high school girls section of that one. She's a world championship semifinalist.
She should be in this
put
race.
her in this one.
She should be in this race. This would be perfect for
We have enough
Adasia
lanes.
Hodge, right? Yeah, 6 lanes. Throw in,
No,
in one of them.
do they really though?
What?
I don't think they do have enough lanes.
Not good lanes.
Oh,
We got lanes.
We got lanes. Not good ones.
Okay, Deja, you
Give the high
can.
school kid the worst lane. Yeah.
You can.
But I mean, I'm excited. I think Rashida, she's gonna take this. She's like a triple threat from like the 60 to the 200 to the 400. She did really well at Worlds last year. I think she's gonna do well here. But Talitha Diggs, her pro debut, she's a USA champion in the past, NCAA champion in the past. She made the world final last year. So I think Talitha Diggs is gonna be set the tone for what, I don't know, the women's 400 in a sense for the USA is gonna look like this year.
I want the moment where we have Eamon Coughlin and Adeleke just kind of like giving a fist bump or something like that. It'd be just an iconic moment in Irish track and field history because we know that Eamon Coughlin never misses a Millrose Games.
Yeah.
Chairman
Well,
of
I'm
the
excited
board.
for Adeleke because last year the season ended a little bit prematurely, wasn't able to come back and run a relay. And, it's like, oh, well, what's going on in the offseason? It's like, well, she opened up in 51-1. She's fine. Like, she is firing on all cylinders. And, to your point, like, I always just love when a smaller country has a medal threat and how much they rally behind that opportunity. And so, having spent some time in Ireland since she's really come on the scene, people are talking about her. And so Eamon's definitely going to give her that fist bump and is rooting for her.
All right, so we're going to, real quick, Bandit supported 9 Olympic Marathon Trials qualifiers. They're supporting us here this weekend, bringing you all of the coverage from the Millrose Games. And in the weeks leading up to the trials in Orlando, they went and hit the hometowns of several of those qualifiers for video series that they're calling Dialed. I've watched the episodes, and they're fantastic. Really job well done by John Rice and the crew who filmed that. I mean, you're on the CITIUS MAG YouTube channel right now. If you have a second, go and subscribe to the Bandit running YouTube channel. They're going to be posting videos like this all the time, all throughout the year. They've got plenty of support for kind of like those sub-elite, unsponsored athletes. And so the storytelling is really compelling. Here's a quick look at the Dialed series by Bandit.
I believe to a T. Like, I daydream of like what I want to achieve. Like, this is my first attempt at the trials. This is my second marathon ever. From that race on, like, I told myself, I'm gonna do everything in my power to be able to race with these guys.
All right. In addition to watching the videos, you can also show your support for our sponsor, Bandit, by visiting banditrunning.com. Use promo code CITIUS20 for 20% off your first order. And then at the same time, their membership program just relaunched. So check that out for early access to products. I mean, sometimes things sell out so quick, it pays off to have the membership. They've got events. They'll just keep you in the loop on all things Bandit. So thanks to Bandit for supporting us. Let's dive right back in to all of our preview action. These are the 3 biggest races, I think, of the meet. So we start with the men's 2-mile, which features a clash between 1,500-meter world champion Josh Kerr and U.S. 5K and 10K outdoor record holder Grant Fisher. But then all of the names behind that are also really strong. Morgan McDonald, Kieran Lund, Samuel Firu, Keita Sato, Joe Klecker, George Beamish, Cole Hocker, and I believe AJ Ernst is going to be the pacer, or they might have 2 pacers in this one. But, I mean, I love just kind of like how months ago when I had Josh on the podcast, he immediately threw out the world record talk, and there wasn't like a firm commitment like I'm going after the world record, but I think he's sticking to the guns, and it sort of comes on the heels of Jakob Ingebrigtsen changing people's perception of like, no, you can run 2 back-to-back sub-4 marathons without any break.
Miles.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Miles.
He's got the Olympic trials on the mind.
Yeah. It's the dialed series. I just
that world record, 8:03:40, held by Mo Farah
for the indoors, yeah.
Countryman. So you can see why you want.
So you need the British record, you need the world record.
You need it to go down. I think that the exciting thing for this is that you've have some athletes who have raced. Like a lot of them actually don't race this that often. So, you know what? Some extra meters in the race. Like anything can happen.
I keep going back and forth on this. 8:03 is so fast. Like, think about it. You're coming through 3K in 7:30 and continuing on. I think the difficult part here is that Josh is now coming in calling his shot versus last year. You know, the pressure is on. This is probably the biggest stage that he'll be racing on, since the World Championships. And he's said it for months that he's going for this one time, and that is just an immense amount of pressure, something that we do know that he can handle. But when you consider the way that he won the 3K last year, it was sitting back, letting other guys doing it, and then coming on strong the final 250 meters. Now the expectation is like, all right, you're the one saying this whole 8:03 number. You go do it. An advantage.
Could it be a bluff?
It'd be a hell of a bluff. As a meet director, I wouldn't love this bluff. I'd be like, no one's going to trust us in the future.
I got you 2 pacers. You better try.
And the advantage here is I'm almost positive AJ Ernst is the pacer. And
he's been doing a heck of a job.
He ran 3:52. He just ran through, that's what you need. You need someone who's good enough to be in the race. If they're going to bring him substantial enough distance to get him close, assuming he's the one up front. And again, if you're asking for the pace and you've been saying it for months, the responsibility sort of falls on you. Joe Klecker, for once, take the night off. You get to ride the Josh Kerr train this time around. It just seems really, really fast. I'm not saying it's impossible. We don't know what sort of shape he's in. Clearly something good. But it is really fast.
A lot of these guys are coming off 5Ks too. So they're coming off like the strength build and then coming down. So Kyle, what do you think about that versus, like you were saying, this world record at the time they're going for is extremely fast. Seems like you need to be a little sharper than coming from the strength aspect. If you've done all your fall miles, you're coming off some 5Ks at BU.
Yeah, I think that they're strong, and at least from like a mental standpoint, it's probably easier at this point of the year to go from 5 to the 2 mile. But I guess I'm just doing the math. Look, 30 flats are not fast in and of itself. A lot of these guys would be able to go out and dip below, 350 for the mile potentially right now. And so I'm not necessarily worried about the cadence or race sharpness. Just no one has necessarily done anything at this point that indicates it. But again, we haven't seen what Grant Fisher's up to. We've got no clue.
So if you're Grant, do you just sit and watch but without letting Josh get away, do you just sit in that second position?
Yeah, I mean, look again. If you're the talker,
Yeah.
which Josh, love him for it, has done a lot of since
every week. There's a new article
I know.
from the British press.
I know one guy in Norway who is definitely watching this race with.
You know, he should
some
just come.
thoughts.
Jakob, come on.
Right?
Like, keep it interesting. We need
Well,
you
he's
here.
hurt, and he's got like I mean, he usually goes to leave-in, which is also this
Yeah.
weekend. But I
Then,
mean,
like,
yeah,
an
I would
hour.
love for just like a live reaction camera on him.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that we know Josh is really fit, and historically, he only shows up when he's fit, and he backs up the majority of things he's ever said he's going to do.
And he's had the most consistency in coaching, training. I think someone like a Grant Fisher, this is a new situation for him. He can't possibly be training in Utah right now.
Grant's
in the
a wild
winter,
card.
A wild card. But I think there's something to be said about the athletes who haven't changed anything going into the Olympic year versus the ones who have really turned their worlds upside down and said, hey, like, we're starting fresh.
I mean, you got to like Jordy right now,
Yeah.
right? I mean, he won the what was it, 3K in 7:39 2 years ago here in a massive classic Jordy finish. You know, and he just came off of a great 5K. You know, I love that he was pissed he didn't break 13. Like how things change in a couple of years is amazing, that perspective. But looked really, really strong in that 5K. And I think if someone is going to challenge Josh, it's Jordy.
In a similar vein, like, are we overlooking Cole Hocker here? Because it's, you know, the conversation I had with him, like, he's never felt this confident or this good this early on in the season. He made the move out to Virginia. Things seem to be going well. He's got Cooper with him now. But I guess for the both of you, like, do you see this in a very similar vein to Nikki taking on the 2 mile as, like, a double the distance might be too much?
Yeah, I mean, Cole, in addition to having run fast 5Ks in his life and on the
So it's a
college
different
level.
case.
I feel like it's very different than Nikki's situation.
Okay.
Yeah, Nikki hadn't run. They ran
Cole did win.
9:03.
I forget now. Cole won USA.
Yeah, Cole. I mean,
Cole's
Nikki.
is very a stronger, like, more, 15 5K
Yeah.
versus an 8-5. So I definitely
Massive brain
think
fart
we're
on my
backing to your question. Like, I definitely think we're overlooking Cole.
Yeah.
The one thing I will say, like, this one's before, but I love when the OAC makes it feel like a home meet when everyone just starts to win across the meet. And I think once you get that energy going, like, we've seen that a couple of times, and you're like, over in Europe, and you're like, wait, what just happened? Like, how did OAC just keep racking up these wins? So I think if we get some of that energy going, and if the men's is before the women's 2 mile, like, if something special happens here, I think we can see something special on the women's side too.
On the topic of Cole, he ran fine at the U.S. Cross Champs. He didn't make the team. Like, he wasn't in
I think
that.
both those guys are training through it.
Yeah, but it's close. It was in Virginia. He got out there, and I don't think of Cole as a 10K cross runner. I think he's strong. I think he can handle a 2 mile, but whereas Cooper, a little bit more established in cross. But Cole had a strong race. But then I don't think anyone realized that those guys both raced 1,000. Cole beat Cooper running 2:18 in a 1K very quietly. I don't know if there was even any other finishers in that race. So if Cole obviously Cooper's fit, he won U.S. Cross and came out and ran 2:19. For Cole to then beat him and run 2:18, he's ready to go. Something is there. So
It's kind of a wild card race. Like, I honestly don't know what's going to happen here. I really don't have a strong prediction either way.
I wish we had a big board and we could just place people
this
out of the
happens,
hat
then
one by
this-
one, and then this is the finishing order. But
I'll tell you this, I think 8th place in the field is going to run 8:10.
yeah.
Well, if you go to the records tab on this one, if you're on the Milrose website, you'll see that there's records of people in the field. So
Yeah.
we'll see something happen.
All right, any hot prediction?
Jordy's going to make this a race, is my prediction. I think the question will be, in the last 200, has Josh put enough distance on him? Because I think for Jordy to go out as fast as Josh is intending on doesn't necessarily lend himself to his style. But if there's a moment of weakness when the rabbits step off and Jordy can reattach, that last 200 will very much be a race. I don't think Josh is running away.
I'll go Grant Fisher.
Yeah.
I have a hard time betting against him in any situation, regardless of all the changes. So I'll go Grant.
When's the last time Grant raced here at the Armory? It must be since high school.
He's not a big, like, what's
Wasn't
Grant's
a huge-
indoor background
Yeah,
even?
yeah.
Like, I feel like it's not usually on the
Yeah,
schedule for those guys other than Paced, Bowerman,
Yeah, time
Adventures,
trials.
Hippie
Anderson, any hot takes on this one?
I mean, I'm looking at Josh. I feel like Josh, I think he wants to, of course, prove he's a world champion. He doesn't want to like show his cards, or he, maybe wants to show his cards. The fact that like I'm putting out there that I'm going for a record, but I don't know if he's gonna. The record is crazy. I don't know if he's gonna get the record, but I think he wants to prove himself.
All right, can we buy or sell the amount of trash talk in the men's 1500 right now? There's a lot, and now
crazy.
Whiteman's involved again.
I mean, keep it going.
Yeah,
I'm buying it.
I'm gonna buy it if we can see some races pre-Olympics.
I also,
Yeah.
I love the fact that, I think there's no bigger supporters of journalism than Josh Kerr and Jake Whiteman and Jakob Ingebrigtsen, because they're supporting the British press and the Norwegian press. They're keeping those guys employed, writing articles every single week. They're giving them good material.
keeping
so-
Google Translate as your favorites tab.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out what's going on with Jakob's Achilles. Is it?
So I'm buying it. Yeah.
You're buying.
Yeah, I'm probably buying it. I'm buying.
But they have to race each other,
They have
right?
to,
Like
yeah.
that's it. Like if you just talk all year long and we only see one matchup, it's less exciting in my
World
mind.
Indoor.
Wait, you don't want? So you want them to go head to head at the Oslo Diamond League?
I want to see 3 head-to-heads between these guys.
Yeah, I wanna see that
leading
back
in.
and forth.
I know, but I think they're gonna save it till the Olympics.
I mean, think of if Jakob beats Josh a couple times during the regular season. It was like, yeah, he's going to
like,
keep
I
I told you so. 98 out of 100.
times.
I told you so. Like that will only, I don't know, add fuel to the fire
Yeah.
for everyone.
And talking about the miles,
Yeah.
feels like a good time.
Yeah. All right. So let's, because it's sort of, we wish these guys were all running the mile
running the
here.
mile right
That's
now.
what we're talking about.
Well, let's kick it off with the women's mile, and then we'll save the fireworks for the final part of the show. Women's Wanamaker mile, so no defending champion because Laura Muir switched to the 2 mile. So Ellie St. Pierre, who has won this one twice before, I'm pretty sure.
4:16.
Yeah, has the American record. I feel for Josette, who's come close 2
Twice.
years in a row, but it's a strong field. I think like Ellie becomes the one to watch in this one, especially a week after losing to Jess Hull, who's also in this race.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I kind of like that rivalry forming as well.
Yeah, I mean, last weekend, Ellie, who I'd already answered the question of is she going to be able to come back quickly after giving birth to her son Ivan.
At
already-
Fifth Ave, answer that question.
At
Yeah.
Fifth Ave, she ran 4:23. So for her to come back and run 8:25, it was just like, yeah, like this is what we expect now, because we knew if you're already that fit in September, but now extrapolating that down to the mile, it's like, oh man, if you were in 4:23 shape in September, what are you ready to go now? I will say that last weekend, and this is like meant to be a compliment, I don't think she looked great last weekend. I think she was running on tired, heavy legs that were in training, and she was able to muscle out in 8:25. And I bet this week she backs off a little bit, a week with 2 races back to back, and comes out with a ton of pop in her legs and is ready to get after it, start cranking out some 63, 64s early.
The thing about Ellie that I think that, yes, she's bounced back from having her baby, but she posted on her story like, oh, a hotel room, I slept through the night. Like, she is not like running at the same
Yeah.
rest recovery lifestyle right now, and you know what, she probably is pretty tired like training through all this, but no one is stronger than Ellie. No one knows how to race indoor better than Ellie, and I think that she's going to get a lot of energy coming back to this race where she's won before. So I think up front we're going to see that. We have a lot of other Americans in the field that, Danny Jones has been coming around this season, Helen Schlachtenhofen, so Josette Andrews, of course. So I think that there's just a lot of storylines here. I think, of course, up front we'll see Josette, Jess Hull, and Ellie kind of taking it. Those would be my favorites in the front. I just love this race so much. They make it so crowded.
This is the opposite of the men's field, by the way. There's 13 people who are going to be on the track for this one.
Yeah, they have 13 people. I'm sure someone's a pacer, as well. Maybe.
I think it's Sadie.
You think it's Sadie?
Yep.
But this is where magic happens, and I think Ellie will want to recreate something to propel the rest of the season, because I know how much it killed Ellie sitting out last season during those World Championships.
Well, World Championship medalist indoors previously. See if we can hopefully replicate that later in the season. But I think the question here is Gisette. Like, is she going to mix it up with Jess and Ellie? Is she on that pack that is going for it?
She got the Olympic standard in the 5K. Mission accomplished there.
She's run 420
Gisette's
here.
like a physical enough athlete for indoor. I think that's something like Gisette's such a smooth, like has a lot of rhythm running. But I think something about like the physicality of indoor, like you've seen it with Jess Hull. Like Jess did a 1K against Nikki.
Jess and Ellie were
going at it.
Right.
But that's my thing. I think Josette is definitely in the fitness to win this race. I just don't know about like the tactics.
I don't know if it'll matter. It might not be crowded enough. And I would say, looking back to last year's race, in terms of aggressiveness at least, she did take it from Laura Muir at one point before getting passed back late in the race. So I think that the timing of the kick is going to be everything for her here, because I agree. I do think the fitness is there. I'd say that winning time, we're looking under 420.
Yes.
How far under? I don't know, but like,
But I'm
is the
saying
American record
this
under threat?
OAC thing, I'm telling you, if they're having a good meet, like, then
momentum.
If there's momentum in the 2 miles for OAC, like, I'm rooting for Josette. I'm telling you, there's something there. I need to coin a term for it.
I think also I like the point that you made, Dana, because there's something about Josette where she's already kind of declared that this year the focus is going to be on the 5K, and she was kind of like drifting in limbo between 5K, 1500 over the last couple of years. It's like once she got the Olympic standard secure, she's putting all her chips now towards the 5K. That make the most of the opportunity to run a mile, because there's going to be probably fewer 1500s come the outdoor season. So I think for her, it's like, you know what, I'm going to do this less often because my focus is going to be on the 5K. Balls to the walls. Like, it's going to be fast. So I'm in for the Josette, Jess Hull, Ellie battle. It's come down to the final 200 the last couple years. And I think one person you're sleeping on, I think, in this one is Anna Camp Bennett, who has been that mile she had at BU a couple weeks ago. Just from the way we've seen Jill G. Taylor coached athletes race at the Dr. Sander Invitational and at the Millrose Games in years prior, Whitney Orton just kind of gluing herself to Alicia Monson and just being dragged as fast of a time as possible. I could see Anna Camp Bennett doing something similar too, so maybe not for the win, but could have a chance to drop that personal best even further down from 427. So just another name to throw out there.
Anderson, what do you think? We're going all nerdy on the miles here.
Yeah.
Listen, I really like Josette. I feel like it's a no-pressure situation where she can just go out there. Like you said, it's not going to be her focus throughout the year. She's looking at the 5K. Go out there and attach yourself to Jessica Hull, to Ellie, right? But I think at the top, I do think that Ellie is going to really step things up. And I think she wants to prove herself. Like you said, she couldn't compete last year. She was one of the most dominant back in 2021, 2022. She wants to get back in the fold and say, I'm really going to be in the mix. So I think Ellie is going to really put a statement out today or tomorrow.
I think no matter what, tomorrow, when you look at the final results, you're going to see one of those PB, NRs, NR. It's all the way down the board. From an NCAA perspective, I think it's really cool. Maya Ramsden is in here.
Yep.
This is, I don't know. That NCAA record might be a little bit too far out, but also
424.
Getting in a race like this, it is just shut your eyes, look at the back of the person in front of you, and wake up with 200 meters to go and give it everything you got. And all of a sudden, she has proven in the 1500 as well that she has wheels. I don't think going out and 212 is too fast for her.
No. And I think, 427 is the current NCAA leading mark by Kimberly May. And, she's the NCAA 1,500-meter champion. So I think, we haven't even tapped, anywhere near Maya Ramson's potential in this event. So, yeah, I mean, women's Wanamaker Mile, it's going to be awesome. Now, the final event of the meet, the men's Wanamaker Mile, which right now, if you head on over to the CITIUS MAG Instagram page, we have a prediction contest up with Bandit running, where it's actually a really fun concept here because you are going to be rooting for a slow race. And why is that? Even though there's been all this world record talk, you want the race to be as slow as possible. I'm talking like my pace slow. Like you want is to be won in 5 minutes because the prize is a gift card to banditrunning.com that will correspond with the winning time. So if the winning time is 3:46, then that is a $346 gift card. If the winning time is 5 minutes, then that is a $500 gift card. So enter your predictions. All you got to do is drop the name of the athlete you think is going to win, their winning time, include the decimal because you don't win unless you get it exactly right. And then all you have to do is follow CITIUS MAG and Bandit, like the post, and may the best person win. And hopefully they run super slow.
How many decimal places? 1?
2 decimal places.
2 decimal places.
Yeah. So if it's like your guess has to be 346.10 or whatever it might be. We're not giving
this is technical.
We're not giving you the cents, but we're just going to give you the flat, first 3 digits of the whole thing. So it's a creative. Concept.
The problem, though, is I don't think this is going slow.
No, so the problem for everyone is...
You know what? The good thing about this is that $340-something is still some great Bandit gear.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I will drop the link to the prediction contest in the YouTube chat so that people can drop their guesses. But in the meantime, I guess, Kyle, this race... At first, when it was announced, was kind of billed as a Yared Nuguse world record attempt.
All right.
Fix the hat. Fix the hat.
I feel for those followers of the CITIUS MAG Instagram and Twitter sometimes. You see a link, you see a headline, maybe you disagree with it. We're not experts. We're just out here having fun. And sometimes I see headlines. I see a headline and I'm like, that's not true. Who wrote this article? And I'm going to get blown up by him right now. But this week, David Melly wrote an article in the preview basically saying it's Yared Nuguse versus the clock. And I scratched my head. I'm like, what are you talking about, Yared Nuguse versus the clock? Versus 6 other guys. I don't think there's... Just because he ran well here last year and because he ran well last spring, I'm not ready to hand him the Wanamaker Mile just yet. Hard stop. George Mills just beat him in a 5K and is a 3:47 miler. Why are we not saying that he has a shot?
Our dear friend David Melly is that he does like to stir the pot in a good way.
He's got me going.
And all these guys in this field probably also saw that article and now are going to say, Yared, no way, I'm here too. If they weren't already fired up enough.
I mean, I think of Cooper Teare, who we were just saying is definitely fit and ready to go.
The 2 mile to the mile.
But the main guy that I would take some personal insult to this idea that it's Yared versus the clock is Hobbs Kessler because he just blew away the field in New Balance.
Yeah, Anderson, what'd you see last week?
He went crazy in Boston, and he literally said, I think, that he's gonna hop onto Yared Nuguse for a fast race. So I think he definitely took some notes off that, and I think he's gonna put something down there.
Hey, and if I'm Hobbs, at this point, he's seen Yared enough times, both at U.S. Championships. I mean, they just did that road mile in Hawaii. Eventually, it's gonna hit.
Oh, I mean, certainly gonna hit. I just think Hobbs.
How old is Hobbs now?
20.
He's 20 years old.
Okay. Sometimes I have to do a Hobbs age check just for myself because I kind of forget how young he is.
I think so much eligibility.
He has so much eligibility. But he also gets so upset when he doesn't make a team or doesn't win in a way that you're like, oh my God, this man's been at it forever. And you're like, no, he's 20 years old.
And I think for him, there was a little bit of a transition, obviously, to this new professional lifestyle. And I think now he's fully established. He's found what worked. He's made some life changes at different points and is spending more and more time in Flagstaff. And I think what we saw last week is someone who's no longer happy of just being the kid who's running fast. It's saying, no, I want to win races. And that's an addicting feeling that really started during the road champs when he wins Worlds. And to line up and immediately say, oh, Jake Whiteman, who's asking for 220 through the first 1K, that's not too fast. I'm going to sit right there, and I'm going to blow it away from very, very far out. I think, I bet there's a chance guys thought he had mistimed the number of laps. Starting a 1500 indoors, very weird. You start on the opposite side. It gets very confusing. And I personally had the thought of like, what lap are we on? Why is he sprinting so hard so early? But he holds on, runs 3:33, looking fantastic. And so when thinking about the potential time, all right, if the world record's 3:47 and that's what Yared is going for and has done before, why would we not think that Hobbs also has an opportunity to break 3:47 based off of what we saw at New Balance?
And even just the fact he beat out a world champion. If that's not motivation going into Milrose now, I mean, I don't know what is. Hobbs is really, like you said, getting into the realm of I am one of the best, right? I'm a consummate performer. I'm able to show up. So I don't know. Hobbs could win this whole thing.
I think he's got a shot. I think the other interesting part was like I just put out a podcast episode with Ben Flanagan a couple days ago, and I asked him sort of like, oh yeah, Ron Warhurst, like his training, like